Okay, let's get right into it. There is a massive shakeup happening in the world of national defense. I mean, it's a huge clash of cultures, pitting the old guard, the giant established defense companies, against a whole new wave of tech startups. And this isn't just about a few new gadgets. It's a fundamental fight over how the very future of our security is going to be built. And to really get what's going on, you have to start with this incredibly blunt statement from an industry panel. Defense manufacturing is broken by design. Wow. I mean, that is a heck of a claim, right? But it cuts right to the heart of the problem. It suggests the whole system, the one we've built up over decades, is just not built for the speed of modern conflict. And what we have here is really a tale of two completely different mindsets. On one side, you've got the old guard. These are your legacy contractors. They've got decades of experience building these proven, exquisite, incredibly complicated systems. So their culture, yeah, it's pretty risk-averse, and you can understand why. But then on the other side, you've got the new blood, straight out of Silicon Valley. They're bringing that move fast and break stuff attitude, a total software-first approach, and a huge appetite for those high-risk, high-reward gambles. All right, so to really understand this, let's try to get inside the heads of the big established players, the companies they call the primes. How did they see their role in this new world? So you look at something like an F-35 fighter jet. A giant like Lockheed Martin will tell you its strength comes down to four things. First, it's the hardware itself. It's battle-proven, the government trusts it. Second, it's the millions and millions of lines of software code that actually make the thing work. Third is their expertise in integration, adding new tech onto these existing platforms. And finally, and this is a big one, it's scale, the sheer ability to build and deliver thousands of these things. So you might be wondering, if the old guard is so established and so capable, what gives? Why is their playbook suddenly being challenged right now? Well, the answer came straight from the battlefield, and it was a massive wake-up call for everybody. Conflicts in places like Ukraine and Gaza have really exposed a huge vulnerability for Western militaries, and it's summed up in this term, magazine depth. Turns out, it's not just about how advanced your weapons are, it's about how many of them you have for a long, grinding conflict. The industrial base in the US just doesn't have the ability to ramp up production when it really, truly matters. And this all points to the critical lesson from these modern wars. Many and cheap can defeat the exquisite. Think about it. Your multi-million-dollar fighter jet is an amazing piece of tech. But what happens when an enemy can just throw thousands of cheap, off-the-shelf drones at it? The whole cost equation just completely falls apart. This new reality was basically the perfect opening for a completely different kind of company, one that thinks less like a traditional manufacturer and more like a modern software company. Let's take a look at how they operate. Okay, now this is where it gets really clever. Take a company like Enderal. They have what they call a Trojan horse strategy. See, the government is really good at buying things, hardware. They're not so great at buying pure software. So Enderal builds awesome hardware like drones or sensor towers, but that's just the shell. It's the delivery mechanism for their real product, a super advanced, adaptable software brain. And get this, they're taking huge risks, using their own money to build factories before they even have the big government contracts locked down. And his quote from Saronic Technologies just perfectly sums up this new way of thinking. These startups believe that waiting for the government to give you a contract before you build your supply chain is a recipe for disaster. They see it as their job to invest ahead of the need, which is a risk the big primes have historically just not been willing to take. So this clash of cultures isn't just some abstract idea. No, it's playing out for real, right now across every single area of defense. Let's look at a few of the key battlegrounds where this is all going down. At the very center of all of this is artificial intelligence. It's seen as the ultimate force multiplier. And the goal here is pretty wild, to use AI so that one single human operator can control literally thousands of autonomous systems, making decisions and reacting to threats at machine speed. And remember that whole many and cheap drone problem we just talked about? Well, this is the answer. The field of CUAS, or Counter Unmanned Aerial Systems, has just exploded. The real challenge isn't just stopping one drone. It's about defeating a coordinated swarm of hundreds, maybe even thousands of them, all working together. And it's not just about the weapons themselves. The startups are arguing that to really fix that magazine depth problem, you have to completely revolutionize the factories. They believe manufacturing needs a software mindset, making the factory floor as agile and as scalable as a modern tech product by blending hardware and software seamlessly. Even up in space, the whole game is being flipped on its head. The old way of doing things, a few super expensive, exquisite satellites, is now seen as a massive liability. Why? Well, because, as one expert bluntly put it, they're just big, fat, juicy targets. The new strategy, which is really being pushed by commercial companies, is all about proliferation, launching huge networks of cheaper, smaller satellites to create a system that's much harder to knock out. Which, of course, leads us to the billion-dollar question. What does the future of this whole industry look like? Is this a hostile takeover by the tech startups, or can these two completely different cultures actually figure out a way to work together? So on one side, you've got the legacy primes like Lockheed Martin. They're saying, hey, we are absolutely open to partnering up. Their argument is, look, we can take the best new tech from these startups and use our massive scale and integration know-how to actually get it into the field. But the startups see it a bit differently. They'd argue that the prime's lack of urgency isn't really their fault. It's a product of this slow, bureaucratic government procurement system that they've just gotten used to over decades. They see the system itself as the biggest roadblock to real innovation. And then there's the money. You can't forget about the money. There's this massive financial tension here, what some folks are calling the war on margin. You have to remember, the venture capital that's funding all these startups isn't free. Investors expect a good return, and they're terrified of their tech just becoming a low-profit commodity. If the government pushes margins down too hard, there's a very real risk that all that private investment just dries up and walks away, stalling innovation when we need it most. So here's the bottom line. This new arms race, especially when it comes to AI, it's not a sprint. There's no finish line. It is a never-ending marathon. Any slowdown, any drop in funding could put national security at risk. So the ultimate question isn't just about who can build the coolest tech today. It's whether the entire U.S. ecosystem, the government, the old guard, and the new blood can find a way to work together to build the endurance needed to lead this race indefinitely.